Thank you for joining us today. It's nice to see all of you and for your interest and attention in this issue. I'm Daniel Salazar with the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants. For those who don't know USCRI, we're an international non-governmental organization. We're a policy and advocacy organization that works for the rights of refugees and other forcibly displaced populations. And we're also one of the resettlement partners in the United States. So USCRI had conducted field research in Uganda last month with the facilitation and support of some of the organizations on this call. Groups like RELAN, groups like Hodari Foundation, connecting us with different refugee-led organizations and those who are involved in the Uganda Refugee response, which is Africa's largest refugee hosting context. Refugee-led organizations, there's some of them on the call. They're our panel today. They're really critical actors in not just the Uganda refugee response, but refugee responses across the world. For all their expertise and lived experience, decision-making, funding, registration, all these different processes that are talked about in the Global Compact on Refugees fall short of that right now. And so this webinar is kind of a space for us to discuss the role of refugee-led organizations in the Uganda refugee response and what that means for refugee responses and displacement responses more broadly. USCRI does have a research report out about these issues out today. I will share that link in the chat. But we're really here to learn about the critical work going on in the refugee response in Uganda, how RLOs are critical in that effort, and what are the challenges they see and how those challenges can be addressed moving forward. So we have a fantastic panel today. Thrilled to introduce Janvier Hafasha from the Hodari Foundation. Thank you for joining us. We also have Lukendo Mbokani from the Refugee-Led Organization Network of Uganda, RELAN. We also have Kubana Alexis from Tomorrow Vijana. We should have another panelist on and from Youth Social Advocacy team. But that's our panel today. I'm thrilled for everyone's participation and talking about this important work. So to kick us off, I'm going to start with Jerry, if that's all right. So Jerry, from RELAN, RELAN represents refugee-led organizations and community-based organizations across the response. So I'm curious what you'd like to share about, what the audience should know about RELAN, about what RLOs look like in the Ugandan context in terms of their scope, their size, their mission. I'm just curious for what you can share about the membership and what the network is comprised of. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daniel, and thank you so much, my fellow panelists and everyone else on the call. I'm called by the names of Lukendo Mbokani, known as Jerry. I am currently the executive director of the Refugee-Led Organization Network. So the Refugee-Led Organization Network started back in 2015, to help refugee-led organizations across the country to have a platform where, their voices can actually be heard, but also to ensure that, there is a proper coordination among the refugee-led organizations that exist within the country. So in 2016, this is when we got our first, registration legal status. And currently we are registered as a regional, network as far as the Uganda registration is concerned. Probably I will talk about that later as far as the challenges are concerned. So we currently have over 135 refugee-led organizations who are member organizations of RELAN in Uganda. And these members are really differ in size in terms of capacity, but also in terms of the capacity of the location where they operate. A number of them are doing educational program, others are doing livelihood program, Others are doing advocacy, and you know, others into informal education. So there, as far as the registration process is concerned in Uganda, for example, you find that some are really community-based organization. Community-based organization, this means one is allowed to operate within a specific region or district. You register at a district level, and then you are given a status as a community-based organization. There are those who are registered as a company limited by guarantee. Once you register as a company limited by guarantee, the assumption is that you're in the process of analyzing with full registration to become either a regional, continental, or foreign entities. And then, of course, there are those who are already fully registered as regional organizations, continental organizations, or foreign organizations. So before 2016, COVID-19, we had a number of refugee-led organizations that were registered as national NGOs here in Uganda. But unfortunately, this is a practice that has just changed recently, where now, instead of registering as a national organization, now the status changes to regional, continental, or foreign. Why regional? This is when, for example, you are the refugee who are behind this organization. If your country of origin is within the East Africa community, automatically your initiative becomes a regional initiative. If, for example, you are outside East Africa community, it becomes continental. If you are not from Africa, automatically it becomes either foreign or international organizations. Of course, you understand what are some of the consequences some of these registrant status really holds as far as the localization agenda is concerned. Possibly we'll also get a chance to also talk about that a bit later. So we are a small team at Rilon, Uganda. We are basically 10 staff currently, where we have 9 who are based at a regional, at a head office. And then we have 1 staff who is based in the community, where we have a few operations. So the refugee-led organization across the country, we have got those who have staff between 2 staff to 200 staff. So just to mention that, there is really a very important growth as far as refugee impact within the country is really concerned. Maybe that's what I can say for now. And over to you, Mr. Daniel.
Thank you so much, Jerry. I'll pass it over to Janvier from Hodari Foundation. I'm curious what you'd like to share about Hodari Foundation and how it came to be and the work it currently performs for refugees and host communities.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for hosting me today, and hi to everyone who is here at the webinar. I'm called Janvier Hafasha. Unfortunately, I'm working for the Foundation as the Executive Director. We are based in Chakati Refugee Settlement, southwestern Uganda. It connects with the story back when I was bringing from DRC Congo. That was in 2015 there, where happened to close to coming to Uganda. It's actually always a darker moment to share, but at least today I'm healing and I'm strong enough to share. When I reached in Uganda, it was really very tough for me, especially at the transit camp called Nyakabande, which is in Solo. So reaching in the refugee settlement, Chakatu, where I'm still based, it was sort of for everyone to access basic needs, having food, having medication, So it was the same moment where I was still struggling with the trauma, especially losing parents and part ways with my fellow siblings who parted ways. That is the time where I couldn't even be able to speak to people. I could spend the whole time sleeping, didn't want to eat. So was fortunately through a neighbor, is one who helped me by inviting the Allied, actually is a former American Refugee Committee who came to assess me, and then they enrolled me to start the psychosocial support. I went through the journey with the psychologist who was working with American Refugee Committee, and through that I started getting recovery and started restored my hope. And then through that, that's when I had to say, I think it is time for me now to share or like to help my fellow refugees, especially youth who are going through the same problems. And fortunately, around 2019, it's when I got an opportunity to serve as a community-based facilitator with Humanity and Inclusion, former Handicap International. And then through that, as the community-based facilitator, I was helping the organization to actually do interpretation, link the beneficiaries to fellow consortium members, and also doing mobilization, giving the information into the beneficiaries of the services that the organization was offering. And then through that, still, I used to help to mobilize and organize the session of the groups for the women who are going through psychosocial support. And this way I found a child called Moise Dieme, who was 3 weeks old, and the mom had passed on. She was over crying, and I really felt sad because I understood the situation of a child losing a parent at 3 weeks. I would say, at least for me, I was teen, but I could be able to speak and ask for support. But now this baby of 3 weeks and in another country, it is really hard. So from that session, I had to follow up to know where this child was staying, and had to ask the caretaker more about the needs of the child. And then from there, I started sacrificing my little salary to support this baby by having the monthly support, having milk, having small clothes. And then from one baby, actually now more two, I recommended again to me. So I realized that my small salary I was earning is becoming small, and actually I also need to meet my personal needs. So from there, I had now to think to myself, now what should I do? I had asked a few colleagues around in that refugee community. I shared with them, and actually I gave them my desire, and then they joined the journey with me. So we had now to form a small initiative, which was now the birth of Hodari Foundation, to be the voice and to share the challenges, and to cover up the gap that other partners are not doing, so that we can join together to heal the world. That is the summary, and thank you so much. Back to Dan.
Thank you so much for sharing. I know some of that is difficult to talk about, and also just hearing the journey of going from, you know, kind of the idea of wanting to give back, and then how that grows into you know, a larger organization now. Next, I'm going to pass it to Kubana, Alexis, to talk about the same sort of question. I'm curious for what you'd like to share on how tomorrow Vijana was established as an RLO, and its trajectory and growth since then.
Thank you so much, Daniel. And also I want to give shout out to my fellow panelists, John, Jerry, and of course, Janvier, Hafasha. Unfortunately, John is not here, but I'm glad that we are all here and we can represent, we are all one person. So my name is Kubana Alexis, and I serve as the Executive Director of Tomorrow Vijana. And Tomorrow Vijana was founded in 2014. That's almost actually 10 years ago. We made 10 years this year. And our aim is to empower, engage, and educate refugees through livelihood initiatives, education support, information technology, women and the psychosocial support, and also plus other skills training programs that we come up with, like job readiness, agribusiness training programs, sports clinics, and so forth. We believe that the education and livelihood initiatives are the key to breaking the cycle of poverty and also achieve sustainable development goals. In an annual, we started serving around like 100 people in an annual basis, but last year we served 12,000 people. We have over 15 programs and activities that exist. We have we started when we were like around 3-4 people as like volunteer staff, but we have up to 45 staff and volunteers that are serving over 90,000 people that live in the Rwamwanja refugee settlements. We are also very fortunate enough to lead a network of more than 30 refugee-led organizations that are operating in the Rwamwanja refugee settlement. We are proud to report that we have supported more than 10 refugee-led organizations to establish, get paperwork to work in the settlement, but also give seeding fund to around 5 refugee-led organizations that have so far served around 1,000 people within just a period of 9 months. We have activities like in education, livelihood, agriculture, environment, ICT, and sports for clinic, where we are using mental health, trauma, tools and experiences to go and talk to the communities and engage them, and try to at least to have discussion and be able to discuss the issues that are affecting our communities using sports, using soccer. And actually, we are currently having that tournament that involves both male and females that are competing just for a good cause, and that is bringing peace, but also being aware of the issues that are affecting them and looking for solutions together. We were the first refugee-led organization to exist in the Rwamwanja refugee settlement as a community-based organization. But as I'm reporting now, in February, we were finally registered and approved to be the regional non-government organization that operates, of course, in Uganda. But Jerry said, we are allowed also to permit to operate in East Africa. So with that being said, that I'm saying that it was not an easy journey, but we are thankful enough for our partners like Kohia, Resourcing Refugee Leadership Initiative, Global Being Fund, who have supported us through this and make sure that we are here where we are now. Also, we thank the USCRI to give us this opportunity to making sure that we are at least advocating on international level. Over to you.
Thank you so much. And it's great to hear about, now being established for 10 years and then contributing and helping organizations that are just getting started, that are just a lot smaller and still getting established. I see that John, our fourth panelist, has joined. I don't know if you can hear us. If you'd like to share about YSAT's work, we're happy to have you join us.
Hey, yes, thank you so much. Hello, colleagues. My apologies that internet just played with me. Probably a testimony to the challenge of connectivity in the settlement. Yeah, my name is John Jal, and I work for Youth Social Advocacy Team, YSAT. We're based in West Nile. And yeah, should I proceed?
Yeah, I guess I'd be curious for what you'd be willing to share about YSAT's work, particularly on peace building and community education in Rhino Camp and in West Nile.
Absolutely, yes, sure. Yeah, just maybe some background information for our viewers. YSAT was formed in 2017 as a refugee-led organization, and our main vision is to promote peaceful coexistence among refugees and between us with host community. But to do that, of course, key elements play in. The access to quality education is very key, because for young people to be nonviolent, the level of education, for example, in our countries where we come from, example is South Sudan, we are only 27% literacy rate. So that's a huge gap of about 73. So that we feel if we contribute to education, especially the access to education, then it could reduce the level of violent conflict. but also access to gainful employment and sustainable livelihoods for both young people and the communities that they come from. So in Rhino Camp, we run 3 programs. That's peace building work, where we train young people as peace ambassadors. Most time programs are done in a way that we hire consultants from outside who don't understand the context, and then they come and train people on very complex, maybe methodology that work in Iraq or Ukraine. But then in our context, it's different. It is community-led, it's people-led, where young people lead the line. We train them to be peace ambassadors. Then they go ahead to train their peers to have peer-to-peer sessions, but also do community dialogues and conflict mediation. And then they also create what they call community watch group, so that they can monitor triggers of conflict, and then conflict can be mitigated before they become violent. Because of course, we cannot prevent conflict from happening, but our work is to make sure that they don't move into violence. In terms of education, we are running 2 education projects right now in West Nile that are focusing. One is focusing on access to gender responsive education, mostly for girls. That is a project that we do in a consortium with the Refugee-Led network, RELON, and CECI, which is one of our partner in West Nile, and then YSAT. This project has 3 components. It has the advocacy, because there are so many underlying factors. The policy that does not allow refugees to access education after, higher education after now finishing primary. The UN system only ends with the primary. What happened? Yet education is a right. So that element is led by the network, because it is having the advocacy upper hand. Then for our work, we do community engagement. We form community structures. We support teachers. We support curriculum development, and also enrollment, retention, and completion. And also creating safe spaces for mothers, because this program look at access to learning for those who are maybe teenage mothers at the age of 17. They unfortunately got, maybe pregnant and produced. So we provide them second chance of life again, And then another project that we also do is Bridge Young Africa Works. This project is in 2 folds. One is a look at cultural shift, where both boys and girls are given same access to learning, but also looking at beyond the normal learning of primary and secondary, looking at access to alternative education program, the AEP program, where people with refugee status who come from countries that speak maybe French or Arabic, like from Congo or Sudan, are able compared to those who already been here before. And then once they finish, we'll also look at informal skills to connect them from short learning to a gainful earning. So those are some of the strategies that we use to promote peaceful coexistence, but also contribute to access to education. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, and also touching on the challenges too, particularly with access to education. That was an important kind of focus of this conversation, of the research, which I will put the link to the new report out in the chat. John, I'm to switch up the order a little bit. I'm going to stay with you on the next question, which is, localization of humanitarian responses, refugee responses, is something that is discussed about at all different levels. I'm curious for your opinion on how the localization agenda is progressing in Uganda, and how RLOs fit into that agenda moving forward.
Yeah, thank you so much. The localization agenda, we welcome it for sure, because it is giving us voice as the community organization. It gives us the power to make decisions for ourselves rather than decisions made for us. And we appreciate the government of Uganda so much, because they provide us the platform to register and run refugee-led initiatives. That for me is the starting point of localization, that is working with the people and working with the organizations that are led by the people. How much we've moved? Of course, it's a process. So far, I would say, Daniel, because we're moving from rhetoric to action. The step where we are in now is a shift from, the language of RLOs don't have capacity to, we will build your capacity, if you will allow me. So this is the localization that's happening now, that whereas there is a change, that some of the INGOs intermediaries are ready to work with us, the language that is going to the donors is that, okay, we will work with the RLOs. At first, the language was they don't have capacity, we can't work with them. Now we are in a stage where, okay, they have some capacities, but we will still have to build their capacity in order for them to get the money. And that for me is a tricky stage because it kind of confuses the donor to make a final decision, but also kind of make us look like, okay, yeah, we appreciate the RLOs in a way. But we also want to appreciate there are some donors that have taken a step ahead. The likes of Hilton Foundation have come up very strongly. We have MasterCard Foundation. They have a strategy they are just about to launch in Uganda, and they are very straightforward. The next 10 years, they're going to work directly with local organizations. We have partners like Oxfam who are forming advisory group that sits in their offices to advise them on how they should do their localizations. The UN is limping in. Please quote me the word limping because it's a struggle understanding. So they also have structures that are formed to advise, but to what extent, that is still a process. So the language that is there in the localization is, yes, the awareness has come. Some of the INGOs are willing to change, but the issue is the survival. I think we haven't understood that localization is not about making INGOs not to be in the space. No, it's about giving us more power to decide what is relevant for our communities, how fast we can get this aid to our people, and how much resources that can come to the people. Because you have a project that is coming, and then 80% of the resources sit somewhere, and then only 20% of the resources come. We're saying reverse the other way around. Let 80% of the resource come to us, and the 20% remain in your headquarters. That is, I think, the localization, the way we look at it. But the capacity strengthening is going on well. Twinning is going on well. Sub-granting is going on not so well. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think my summary is we are in the moving from rhetoric to action. Partners are waking up that we have capacity, but they still need to hold the money on our behalf. I think that's the stage that we are in now. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that contrast of talking about the rhetoric when things like the Global Compact on refugees and the Global Refugee Forum and how far that actually plays out with reality as well. I'm going to move to Jerry next for the next question, kind of combining a couple questions, being mindful of time. Jerry, I'm curious for your thoughts on what are the challenges that RLOs face both in registering as organizations, which you kind of talked about earlier, but as well as meaningfully participating in spaces both within Uganda as well as in the regional and international context. I'm curious for your thoughts on both areas of those sorts of challenges. You're muted if you, yeah.
Thank you so much once again, Daniel.
Yes, sir.
I guess you can hear me. Great. Yeah. I think as my colleague John has really alluded, I think we are grateful specifically, we refugees who are based in Uganda, for the refugee policy in Uganda that allows the refugees to have their initiative registered as a community level, but also as a company limited by guarantee and as full NGOs. I think this policy has really allowed, things like what John talks about to actually happen, to see refugees taking the lead in the response. As I said early, we have a number of refugee-led organizations that have over 200 staff. And I think possibly John will correct me, possibly he might be one of those who have a bigger number of staff among the RLOs. So I think that's really a progress. That is something that we can't really take for granted. But yes, as far as the registration is concerned, I think there are really still a discrepancy between the Refugee Act 2006 that allows refugees that gives refugees all the other rights apart from the right to vote and be elected to public offices. This also means that the refugees have the right to associate like normal Ugandans, where their initiatives should rather have a national status other than regional, continental, and foreign. Much as we are grateful with some of these statuses that refugee-led organizations are given, but we see this as a very big challenge as far as the localization agenda is concerned that John actually really talked about. For us to be able to meaningfully engage, to be able to be seen as local actors, I think we need to have our initiative be recognized at a national level as a local initiative, not regional, not continental or foreign initiative. Because what does that mean? Once we are recognized as regional, continental, and foreign, it simply means that we are not seen as local actors anymore. We will be seen as completely foreigners. And I think this really has a very big impact as far as the localization agenda is concerned. So the Refugee Act, the NGO Act 2016, I feel like there is need to have really a harmonized way to ensure that these two acts are really implemented in a harmonized manner, to ensure that the refugees are not left behind, given the fact that Uganda is really, really taking a very a lead as far as the localization is concerned. By the way, just to mention that Uganda has been developing a localization strategy, a national localization strategy that the Refugee-Led organization, we are really, really heavily engaged in this consultative meeting. So to mention that up to now, Refugee-Led organizations are still considered as local actors, according to the consultation discussion that we've had with both the Ugandan authorities who are part of this discussion, but also other local actors. The challenge comes on the legality, where now we are looking at who are now the local actors in terms of legal status of their initiative.
Awesome.
So
thank you.
As far as the
Jerry, I think I might need to turn to Janvier for the next question, if that's all right.
Oh, great.
Okay, we can come back to that thought. I want to be mindful of our time. We have about 5 minutes before a short Q&A section, so I did want to check in with Janvier as far as what are some of the challenges that Hodari Foundation sees in serving unaccompanied children and minors in Chaka 2. What are some of the challenges that Hodari Foundation sees operating as an organization there? Janvier, can you?
Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you. The challenges that are the unaccompanied and orphans are facing actually, it could be something that would be a responsibility to each of us here, because the unaccompanied minors are totally different from the orphans. And the unaccompanied minors, they are the children who free from their home countries without no relatives, no parents. They just move on their own. And I think one of the challenges starts from the crossing the border, when they just attach them to the families that they don't even speak the same language. These are the children. I think people have been here in Uganda for years. They know that if you're below 18 years as a refugee, you can't have a document unless you are attached to a family or someone who's like your caretaker. So when they reach at the border, they just attach them to any child or sorry to any family, so they can be able to cross and go to the refugee settlement. So the challenge starts from there, where as they receive them, because they look at them as opportunity, because they know that if I take this orphan, unaccompanied minor, many NGOs will come and support me. But actually, if they don't support this child in someone's household, then this child becomes a burden to them. So they end up using this child to repay back by force. How? At times they force the child to go over the streets asking for support. They move zones over to villages asking for maybe soap, for maybe maize, anything. And what hurts me is that when they come back to home, actually then some of them, they deny them to have food. They deny them to have education. So to me, it really is something that I feel it's something that even the government must step into, and also are developing policies to see how possible can be able to support these unaccompanied minors. And another thing is on the open spaces where the inadequate child-friendly spaces, so that children could run, come and speak to their friends, express their feelings on how they are feeling about how the caretakers are taking care of them. These children at times they even fear to speak up. It is hard to come and assess a household and ask this child, did you eat? You know, if the other children are home with her, this child will fear to say no because she thinks if I go back, we'll start being punished. So we'll say yes, but when you go deep to create space for her and ask, really, if you ate, she'll tell you, I last ate 3 days ago. So this way, I feel that if there is child-friendly spaces or open spaces, it could create a space where this child can be able to open up by expressing how he's being treated. And also we talk on the psychosocial support, where they just come and they talk to them and then they run away. So this child has spent years not seeing the parents, not seeing the relatives. So just speaking to her or him and you run away and they don't have to deal with him or her, then you're opening her wound and then again, you're not there again to create space and then you heal and deal with her or him. So I feel they are really abandoned when it comes to psychosocial support, where many NGOs come targeting women, targeting men. They end up leaving these children who are really struggling. And then lastly, I will talk on the healthy basic needs, especially for the girls who are not able to have someone who can buy for them these materials. Like having the buckets, having the soap, having the sanitary usable pads that they could use during their menstrual. So this child, they end up not having whom to trust to share that I'm in menstrual. So, and because of this, some of them, they end up feeling lonely and they keep on struggling with the post-traumatic stress disorder, which hits them and they don't even want to go to the public places to speak or play with other children. So those are the things that I really am observing because I'm on the ground with them. And these are the things that I see every day on their basis. Thank you so much. Back to you.
Yes, thank you so much for underscoring the importance of child-friendly spaces, you know, where kids can be kids, as well as that issue too of access to supplies, access to sanitary pads being an issue that shows up again and again in these contexts and has really severe consequences as well. With the last question before Q&A, I'll turn it to Kubana, just to check in on what are some of the challenges that your organization has faced in terms of partnering with international NGOs, what's been good practices, what's been bad practices, and room for improvement. Just curious for your thoughts on that before we turn to question and answer.
Thank you so much, Daniel, again. And of course, I want to thank also my colleagues for putting in some great points that are vital. So some of the actually positive feedback or some positive experiences that we have had with international government organizations is that they are willing to learn, they listen, but also they have all the networks that we would want to benefit from. You know, they are also able to come and negotiate with you, tell you what is going on. These are the funding opportunities, but with a lot of reservations. That becomes a challenge to us as a refugee-led organization because when we are working with these international NGOs, is that we find that there is power imbalances, you know, because simply you're executive director of a certain INGO and you're just a small executive director of an NGO, definitely there is lack of acknowledgement and disrespect that it comes in. And to the extent that even if what we are negotiating, you are negotiating it, they think as you as an inferior. So for example, that's what my friend John was saying, that if you are talking about staff allocation and budgeting, you will end up getting 20%. of what they promised and they get back the 8%. Why not to revert that amount and then get 8%? They also tend to work to bring experts. Someone comes to Uganda, is there for 1 month, meets Jerry, meets John, meets Simon, meets Janvier, and they think they are expert. They go and create a lot of noise on social media in terms of advocacy, but they truly do not understand what is happening behind the scenes and in our daily lives. But also once they want to commit, they would commit, but also they commit to a short-term focused project. So for example, they would say, we would want to support you, but we are going to support you for a period of 6 months, and here is $3,000. But with the condition that you are not supposed to mention anywhere that we are partnering, you're not supposed to post about it, you're not supposed to use our photos or logos. And you ask yourself, where is that information coming from? Who is doing the actual work? We are the ones doing the actual work, but we have limits on what to do and how to report. And also there are a lot of bureaucratic challenges, of course, because they deal with a lot of entities. And sometimes you can be promised that you are receiving a lot of funds, you are receiving funds, or you are receiving this support, but you end up being announced without even getting anything from it. For example, you write it for a proposal, we have a refugee-led organization that we supported. They went and they were the finalists. They were supposed to get $50,000, but they never got it simply because we don't know where it went. And that's what I mean with bureaucratic challenges. There is also what we call cultural misunderstandings. Simply because we don't speak the same language, we don't come from the same backgrounds, they tend to misunderstand you in terms of what are your thoughts, what are your areas of expertise, and what are your achievements and your services. Lastly, there is lack of trust. They say, okay, these are refugees, they are going to get resettled, and so what? So why should we trust them? Why should we trust them that they will get a funding and be able to execute it? Yet we have a great examples of my colleagues here and tomorrow Vijana who have received the fundings from these great foundations and they have used it effectively. We have accountants, we have structures, we have board members, we have everything that it takes to do and execute this work. However, there is still lack of trust. However, but I can recommend that there should be equal partnership. So once we sit on the table and say we are going to do this, let's be equal. Let's equally participate and equally share those funding. Let's try to sustain our activities, and also let there be transparency and accountability. I mean that if you are giving us money, we are able to report and give you a report the way you want it. We account for it. Now, refugee-led organization do audits. We are audited every year, like any other NGOs, INGOs. So we should be accountable and transparent. We should show it in every reporting and be able to work equally and partner equally. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was such a comprehensive answer. We're about time, but I recognize that we started a few minutes late, so I did want to reserve the last part of this webinar, this engagement, for any questions for our panelists. Feel free to use the question and answer tab if there's any specific questions. I see a question from Simon in the chat. In line with what colleagues are mentioning on localization, where do you all see Arlo's in the next 3 to 4 years in Uganda? That's open to any of the 4 panelists here.
I can see, can I come in, or Jerry, feel free to jump in, but I can just say it in 3 or 4 seconds. I see refugee organization taking over, taking the lead, and also leading by example by implementing and providing excellent services to the communities, but not only to refugees, but also to host communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you really said it all. Maybe the only thing I would really want to add is just, some of the challenges I oversee, coming up. I think if there is no clear implementation of the two acts, we might be talking about only possibly community-based organizations that are led by refugees. And then at a national level, we may not have really any local actor as a national, refugee-led initiative, but rather we will have foreign refugee-led initiative in Uganda. So yes, but I so much in agreement with what you said. Over.
And John, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Simon, for that question. This year, we just participated in developing the strategy for Danida, the Danish government. And exactly that was the question, that in the next 5 years, they look forward to working with youth-led organizations, refugee-led organizations, and organizations led by persons with disabilities. So a 60% target of local and national NGOs, including refugee-led organizations, taking on not just more funding, but also more decision-making in these spaces. That's from leadership roles, from policy influencing, and also, advocacy spaces. And that's what we hope with the effort of donors. Yeah, thank you. And the government of Uganda as well.
Awesome, thank you so much. I will try to see if this one guest can ask a question. Arnold, if you wanted to ask your question really quick, we'll unfortunately have to wrap up after this, as we are a little over time. But... Arnold, are you able to ask your question? Okay, so I don't know if we're able to connect with Arnold, but wanted to check in with the panelists for any final thoughts before we yes, Kubana.
So my final thought, I know you said like over almost 200 people might signed up to watch this. I just want to call upon whoever is watching us or is going to listen to this great conversation to think of long-term funding directly to refugee-led organizations, because we are capable, we are better, and we are in a good shape to execute the mission of serving our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Janvier, or John, then Janvier.
Thank you so much. I think still mention on where I did feel our 3 years to be as laws. I would say in the 3 years, really we need to hope to be independent, more innovative, and more accountable. Those are the things that I wish we'd be in the 3 years from now. Thank you.
Okay, and John, any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
All right, yeah, thank you very much. I'm a very much a pro-localization person, and so all the NGOs that are looking, maybe watching us now, or that will listen to this podcast, I think internal system change is the way to go for us to implement localization. We're struggling to see how to support RLOs, but our systems are shocking us. When I say our system, the NGO system. So I really request that if you want to have value for money, because localization provides you that answer, the value for money, it may be very small, but when it reaches, it does great work. Please look internally and try to see how we can have those internal system change. And then in terms of capacity strengthening for us, because we have a feeling as a refugee-led organization that capacity strengthening or capacity gap is being used as a scapegoat for us not to get what we deserve. I have some good news for you. The first thing you should ask yourself is, what is this capacity, first of all? What are you looking for in this capacity? Are you doing fault finding, or are you looking for areas of complementarity? And then who needs this capacity? Is it you or the donors? And what if we ask ourselves, why the capacity, first of all, if you really want to help? So, and then what is our intention? Are you looking for a number of staff that we have? Are you looking for a number of vehicles, the amount of money we have? Or are we looking at our shared goals and values? Because if we're looking for shared goals and values, everything else can be built in this relationship along the way. The good news that I have for you is, one, could we do due diligence that is equivalent to the money we have? If it is 10,000, please make the pages 3 or 4 at least, not 10, not 30, and yet it's only 10,000. What if it's going to be $1 million? It means the assessment is going to be a whole week. So we are asking that let the due diligence be equivalent or appropriate to the money you are giving. That is localization. That's what we mean. You know, what about you provide us with visibility? When we do something with Relon, go and shout. Don't just mention Relon in a sentence, please. You know, put the logo there, show the work that they've done, put it there. Let the donor back down and see that there is something called Relon, Waisat, Ayan, Sesi in Uganda that did this work. Rather than removing our logo, our names, punching your logo in and say, we did this in Uganda or in South Sudan or wherever. Another thing that we have is appreciate our local knowledge. Most of the research, most of the assessment tools do not have part for appreciating our existing capacity, which is accessibility to our area, the knowledge, the language, our proximity, that we don't even need sophisticated transport to reach these people. So please, this is another way. Another good news is provide us with overhead costs. Most time we talk about complicated system. You need finance system, you need the HR system, you need policies. But without the money, we will not do this. So the capacity we need now is money. Just give us the money and everything will be in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. And thank you to all of our panelists and all those who attended today. Appreciate your attention and time to these important issues. Arnold, sorry we were able to get you on the line, but we can follow up with you as well as Solomon on any questions you had. This webinar will be posted. There will be an email address. You can reach out to the USCRI policy team and we can get those questions or any spare issues connected to any of the panelists. So again, we're really grateful for everyone's time today, and thank you so much for your interest in your work supporting refugees and host communities in Uganda.
Thank you.
Thank you all, everyone. Have a good evening and have a good rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.